In the grand scope of the cosmos, the true nature of humanity remains an enigma. Biologically classified as vertebrate mammals, their behavior defies all conventions observed among the myriad species inhabiting the galaxy. Like an unstoppable wildfire, they spread across the stars with an unprecedented fervor, their passion for exploration and conquest unmatched by any other race. However, I am getting ahead of myself. We, the ancient custodians of the celestial realms, have witnessed the unfolding of the universe and the evolution of its inhabitants for over 1 million millennia. As humanity emerged and evolved on their tiny, insignificant planet, we watched with keen interest, though their ascent was markedly slower compared to the thousands of other races that arose within a mere 1,000 years of their existence. Many, such as the Arans and the Cucks, succumbed to the ravages of perpetual warfare, their civilizations crumbling under the weight of their own aggression. Others, like the Valerians, exhausted the resources of their planet and star system, ultimately perishing within their own limited sphere of influence, a testament to the folly of unchecked consumption. Humanity, in their early stages, appeared to be charting a similar course. While the peaceful Etherian Novans built harmonious civilizations founded on cooperation and mutual understanding, humans seemed driven by an innate desire to construct and destroy in equal measure. Their history was marked by countless wars, each more brutal than the last, as they fought over territory, resources, and ideological differences. We diligently cataloged their presence, studied their physiology, and focused our attention on other races we believed would become the shepherds of the galaxy, guiding the universe towards a new era of peace and prosperity. During our momentary distractions, humanity continued to progress, albeit at a slower pace compared to their galactic counterparts. As the technologically advanced Arans mastered basic flight and rocketry, humans erected cities, castles, and monuments to their own perceived grandeur, a display of vanity that even the proud Novans had foregone in favor of more practical pursuits. While the Novans ventured into space, establishing colonies on distant worlds, humanity pursued art and exploration, their insatiable curiosity driving them to uncover the secrets of their own planet before setting their sights on the stars above. The Arans, in a mere fraction of the time it took humanity to achieve spaceflight, colonized 5 of their 7 moons, their mastery over the cosmos growing with each passing year. Meanwhile, humans celebrated the invention of electric light, a rudimentary yet crucial step in their technological journey. It was a time of great contrast, as the disparities between humanity and the other races became increasingly apparent. However, our attention was drawn back to humanity when we sensed their impending doom. On their war-torn planet, millions of men and hundreds of thousands of machines clashed in the mud, waging war over the petty squabbles of kings and rulers. Half a continent lay trampled beneath their feet, the once verdant landscapes transformed into desolate wastelands by the ceaseless fighting. We mourned for them, even though they had shown little promise. The extinction of humanity would be a somber occasion, a loss of potential in a universe brimming with possibilities. Yet amidst the chaos and destruction, a glimmer of hope emerged. To our astonishment, the fighting ceased, if only for a brief moment. Treaties were signed, maps redrawn, and a fragile peace settled over the warring nations. However, the underlying rage simmered, waiting for the opportune moment to reignite the flames of conflict once more. The bloodshed had not awakened a sense of empathy as we had hoped, but rather, it had sown the seed of vengeance in the hearts of those who had suffered the most. In the aftermath of this global conflict, ruthless leaders rose to power, propelled by the flames of hatred and the promise of retribution. They spoke of glory, of reclaiming what was rightfully theirs, and of avenging the fallen. The stage was set for yet another round of bloodshed, as humanity seemed poised to tear itself apart once more, caught in an endless cycle of violence and destruction. Advanced machines carried soldiers swiftly across vast lands to engage in battle and perish in astonishing numbers. The once primitive weapons of war had evolved into sophisticated instruments of death, capable of unleashing unimaginable destruction upon the enemy. We noted that, during the previous war, And in the intervening period of peace, humanity's advancements in flight, medicine, and manufacturing had accelerated at an unprecedented rate, surpassing even the brilliant Etherians in terms of sheer innovation and adaptability. The humans had learned to harness the power of the atom, unlocking secrets that had eluded them for centuries. They applied this knowledge to their machines of war, creating weapons capable of leveling entire cities in a matter of seconds. The skies above their battlefields were filled with sleek metal birds that rained fire and fury upon the earth below, while on the ground, tanks and other armored vehicles churned the once fertile soil into a muddy quagmire littered with the broken bodies of the fallen. We wept once more as humans engaged in the senseless slaughter of their own kind, both on and off the battlefield. In horrifying proportions, genocide and atrocity, unfathomable to even the warlike cucks, became a reality as humans exterminated millions of their own, driven by twisted ideologies and a deep-seated hatred for those they deemed inferior. The sheer scale of the carnage was staggering, and we found ourselves questioning whether humanity would ever be able to break free from this self-destructive cycle. Yet, abruptly, the violence ceased on half the planet, giving us a glimmer of hope. The guns fell silent, and the bombs stopped falling as the warring nations finally exhausted themselves, their economies in ruins and their populations decimated. In the aftermath of the conflict, a new world order emerged, one based on a precarious balance of power and mutual deterrence. However, our hopes for a lasting peace were dashed when humanity achieved the unthinkable. They split the atom, unlocking the secrets of the universe and harnessing its power for their own ends. This monumental achievement captured the attention of all galactic civilizations, who looked upon humanity with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The implications of this technological breakthrough were staggering, and it quickly became apparent that humanity now possessed the means to destroy not only themselves but potentially the entire galaxy as well. Fear gripped us all, and a pact was forged among the spacefaring races to refrain from interfering with human affairs, believing it best to allow this volatile species to burn itself out rather than risk drawing their eye and potentially triggering a galactic catastrophe. Even we, the impartial and unbiased observers, concurred with this decision, recognizing the grave danger that humanity posed to the delicate balance of the universe. In the aftermath of the war, an uneasy peace and newfound freedom emerged. The surviving nations struggled to rebuild and forge a new path forward. One nation, once a beacon of hope and democracy, extended its protection to another, seeking to create a new world order based on cooperation and mutual understanding. Though tensions remained high, and the scars of the war were still fresh, a semblance of peace persisted for the next century as humanity slowly began to heal and rebuild. However, the embers of conflict never fully extinguished, and the specter of war loomed large on the horizon. The nations of Earth, even as they worked towards a brighter future, continued to eye each other with suspicion and mistrust, their leaders ever vigilant for any sign of aggression or betrayal. It was a precarious balance, one that could be upset by the slightest provocation, and we watched with bated breath, wondering if humanity would be able to break free from the cycle of violence that had defined their existence for so long. Then, one fateful day, a new chapter in human history began as rockets began to ascend into the heavens, carrying with them the hopes and dreams of a species that had long gazed upon the stars with wonder and longing. Eventually, peace reigned once more, and humanity rebuilt from the ashes of their conflict. The Galactic Pact held firm, leaving them to their own devices. As they struggled to create a new world order from the remnants of the old, they perfected FTL drives and expanded into the vast expanse of space, their thirst for exploration and discovery reignited by the promise of new frontiers and untold riches. They swiftly reached the nearest stars and established colonies, their ships and technology advancing at a breathtaking pace. The once tiny outposts grew into thriving cities as humanity poured their resources and ingenuity into taming the hostile environments of alien worlds. They terraformed barren planets, constructed vast orbital stations, and even began to reshape entire star systems to suit their needs, their mastery over the cosmos growing with each passing year. The humans rapidly settled the buffer zone we had intentionally left vacant, a region of space that had long served as a neutral ground between the various galactic powers. They claimed this territory as their own, establishing a foothold in the galactic community and asserting their right to be heard on the intergalactic stage. Some welcomed this development, seeing humanity as a potential ally and trading partner, while others viewed them with suspicion and fear, wary of their rapid expansion and growing influence. However, it soon became apparent that humanity's ambitions would not be satisfied by mere colonization and expansion. They began to push the boundaries of their territory, encroaching upon the domains of other species and sparking a series of border conflicts and skirmishes. These incidents, though minor in the grand scheme of things, served to highlight the growing tensions between humanity and the other races as the delicate balance of power in the galaxy began to shift. Debate raged among the galactic powers as they struggled to come to a consensus on how to deal with the rising threat of humanity. The Zarian and Erins, ever the voices of reason and diplomacy, argued for maintaining a cautious distance from humanity, hoping to avoid provoking them into a full-scale war. They believed that, given time and space, humanity would eventually learn to coexist peacefully with their galactic neighbors, that patience and understanding were the keys to achieving lasting harmony. On the other hand, the Novans, a proud and militaristic race, advocated for a more aggressive approach. They saw humanity as a cancer upon the galaxy, a species that needed to be eradicated before they could spread their influence and destabilize the fragile peace that had endured for so long. The Novans argued that a preemptive strike against humanity's colonies and outposts would be the only way to ensure the safety and security of the galactic community, and they began to mobilize their forces in preparation for what they believed would be a costly but necessary war. As the debate raged on, humanity continued to build, advance, and dominate the planets they claimed, their strength and influence growing with each passing day. They proved to be a formidable force both on and off the battlefield, as they demonstrated time and time again their willingness to fight and die for what they believed in. Humans proved to be remarkably resilient physically. Their bodies adapted to the harsh conditions of their homeworld and the rigors of space travel. While not the swiftest, strongest, or most agile species in the galaxy, they possessed an almost supernatural determination to survive, a trait that set them apart from their galactic counterparts. Like all sapient beings, the human body was greatly limited by their minds, but when faced with dire threats, they displayed a level of tenacity and resolve that was unmatched by any other species. When the Novans or others would fight and often perish in the face of overwhelming odds, humans refused to merely fight for them. A fight implied that either side could emerge victorious, a notion that was anathema to their very nature. When sufficiently threatened, there was nothing a human would not do to ensure their survival, no line they would not cross, no sacrifice they would not make. This realization struck fear into the hearts of many of us, observing from our celestial vantage points, as we began to understand the true depths of humanity's resolve and the lengths they would go to protect their own. Humanity's first strike landed on a sparsely populated Novan world, a small, unassuming planet on the fringes of their territory. The attack was swift and brutal, catching the Novan military completely off guard. The human forces, armed with advanced weapons and technology, swept across the planet like a tidal wave, crushing all resistance in their path. The Novan soldiers, though brave and well-trained, were no match for the sheer ferocity and determination of the human warriors. The fighting was as brutal as it was brief, with the humans showing no mercy to their foes. Not a single Novan soldier survived the onslaught. Those who surrendered were summarily executed, their pleas for mercy falling on deaf ears. The civilian population, caught in the crossfire, was rounded up and expelled to the nearest Novan-controlled planet, their homes and cities reduced to rubble in the wake of the human advance. The galaxy reeled in shock at this unprecedented display of ruthlessness. As the images of the devastation and carnage were broadcast across the stars, the Novans, enraged by this unprovoked attack on their sovereign territory, retaliated with all the might of their vast military machine. They targeted a human military outpost on a small, rocky moon, hoping to strike a blow against their enemy's war machine and send a message that such aggression would not be tolerated. The siege of the human outpost lasted for a month, with the Novan forces throwing everything they had at the entrenched defenders. The humans, however, proved to be a formidable foe, their resolve and determination unbreakable in the face of overwhelming odds. They fought with a savagery and tenacity that the Novans had never encountered before, their warriors seemingly immune to fear or doubt. In the end, the siege was broken when a massive human fleet emerged from FTL and encircled the Novan forces, catching them in a deadly trap. The human ships, armed with planet-destroying weapons of unimaginable power, unleashed a barrage of fire upon the Novan fleet, annihilating them in a matter of seconds. The once proud Novan armada was reduced to a cloud of debris and molten metal, their ships and crews consumed by the fury of the human onslaught. When questioned later about the rationale behind such a display of overwhelming force, the human admiral in charge of the operation likened it to mowing a lawn with a thermonuclear warhead. He argued that once the radiation had dissipated and the dust had settled, the grass would simply know better than to grow there again. It was a chilling statement, one that spoke volumes about the human mindset and their willingness to use any means necessary to achieve their goals. The Novans, reeling from this devastating defeat, took the admiral's words to heart and launched another assault on a human civilian target, hoping to break their enemy's resolve and bring them to the negotiating table. They targeted a small, peaceful colony on the edge of human space, a world that had little strategic value but was home to millions of innocent civilians. The attempted invasion was a disaster from the start, as the Novan forces found themselves facing not just the human military, but an entire population of armed and angry civilians. Men, women, and children took up arms against the invaders, fighting with a ferocity and determination that caught the Novans completely off guard. In the end, the invasion force was completely wiped out with an estimated 4.5 billion Novans killed in the fighting. The human casualties, in contrast, were relatively light, with only 2.5 billion civilians killed in the defense of their home. The Novans, shocked and demoralized by this stunning defeat, resorted to a tactic of last resort. They glassed the planet from orbit, reducing it to a lifeless, radioactive wasteland. It was then that we realized the true nature of human evolution, the factors that had shaped them into the warriors they had become. They had emerged from a world where danger was so ubiquitous, so ever-present, that they had no choice but to adapt and overcome. There was no avoiding the harsh realities of their existence. They had learned to confront them head-on, to face their fears and their enemies with unwavering courage and determination. Over time, their bodies and minds had been forged in the crucible of war, shaped by the constant struggle for survival that had defined their history. Through both biology and culture, they had become a race of warriors, a species that knew no fear and would stop at nothing to ensure their own survival and the safety of their loved ones. After 7 long years of relentless conflict, humanity finally halted their war of extermination, having at last encircled the Novan homeworld. The once proud capital of the Novan Empire lay in ruins, its cities reduced to rubble and its people cowering in fear before the might of the human war machine. The human forces, battle-hardened and weary from years of constant fighting, moved in to secure the planet, their ships and soldiers poised to strike at any sign of resistance. In a final act of defiance, the Novan military leadership ordered a series of desperate last stands, hoping to inflict as much damage as possible on the human invaders before the end. They fought with the courage of the doomed, their soldiers throwing themselves against the human lines in waves, each one cut down in a hail of gunfire and explosions. The human forces, their resolve unbreakable, pressed forward, their superior technology and training proving decisive in the final battles. As the dust settled and the smoke cleared, the human commanders gave the order to glass the Novan military outposts from orbit, ensuring that no pockets of resistance could threaten their hard-won victory. The remaining civilian population, shell-shocked and traumatized by the horrors they had witnessed, were rounded up and relocated to a nearby habitable planet, their ancestral home now nothing more than a memory. In a final act of vengeance, the humans employed a gravity well to drag the Novan homeworld into the system's star, watching with grim satisfaction as the planet was consumed by the raging inferno. It was a punishment that fit the crime, a symbolic erasure of the Novan race and all they had stood for. The Novans, broken and scattered, endured as a pale shadow of their former selves, their once great civilization reduced to a primitive state in a matter of generations. The true extent of humanity's revenge, however, lay in the fact that the Novans, in their desperation and despair, had come to worship their conquerors as gods. Their religion centered around the very beings who had destroyed them. The irony was not lost on us, the ancient custodians of the stars, as we watched the Novan prostrate themselves before the altars of their human masters, offering prayers and sacrifices to those who had brought about their doom. It was a testament to the power of fear and the depths of despair, a reminder of the lengths that a broken people would go to in order to find meaning and purpose in the wake of unimaginable tragedy. In the years that followed, humanity continued to expand their influence and territory, their reputation as a force to be reckoned with now firmly established in the minds of all who inhabited the galaxy. They forged alliances with some races and made enemies of others, their diplomacy as cunning and ruthless as their warfare. The galaxy, once a place of relative peace and stability, had been forever changed by the rise of humanity, its delicate balance of power now thrown into chaos. As we watched from our celestial vantage points, we couldn't help but marvel at the sheer audacity and tenacity of the human race. They had risen from humble beginnings on a small, insignificant planet, fighting tooth and nail for every scrap of territory and resource. They had faced adversity and tragedy on a scale that would have broken lesser species, their will to survive and thrive undiminished by the countless challenges they had faced. And yet, for all their strength and resilience, we couldn't help but wonder about the cost of their success. They had become a race of warriors, their entire society geared towards conflict and conquest. They had sacrificed so much in the pursuit of power and dominance, their humanity slowly eroded by the very qualities that had made them great. As we look to the future, we can't help but ponder the fate of the galaxy and all who called it home. Would humanity continue on their path of expansion and conquest, their ambition and aggression unchecked by the concerns of their galactic neighbors? Or would they find a way to forge a new path, one that balanced their fierce independence with the need for cooperation and coexistence? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and their presence would be felt for generations to come. Whether as saviors or conquerors, allies or enemies, they would shape the course of history in ways that even we, the ancient custodians, could scarcely imagine. And so we watched and waited, our eyes fixed on the stars above, knowing that the fate of the galaxy now rested in the hands of the most unlikely of species. The humans, once dismissed as primitive and insignificant, had proven themselves to be the most formidable force in the universe, their will and determination unmatched by any other. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity would never be forgotten. Their legacy, for better or worse, would endure long after their time in the galaxy had ended, a testament to their unyielding spirit and the depths of their potential. And we, the ever-watchful guardians of the cosmos, would be there to bear witness to it all, our destiny forever intertwined with that of the human race.